Okay, friends, let's continue where we left off on our explanation and understanding of the eat sheet. And where I left off was just finishing up the topic or the section on understanding the caloric values of vegetables and how we mix it with other foods to increase our volume and decrease our caloric intake. Now, one of the things that I suggest, and especially with the massive number of people who just don't get the amount of green vegetables in their diet, is to create a bucket. And I want to go into this in more detail in a later lesson. But what you want to do is maybe prepare your vegetables in the morning. You know, get a 8-cup container, a plastic container, and put your salads and either raw or cooked vegetables in there to reach that number of 8 cups. Which, if you have the proper combination of the leafy green vegetables and the more solid vegetables, you'll probably get to that 120 calories just with that. You can put a little dressing on it, but mind you that the dressing probably would be a number that needs to be scored in the butter and oil section, and then you'll have your vegetables. And the goal is to consume that container of food, or what we call the bucket, over that day's period of time, maybe from 10:30 or 11 o'clock prior to lunch, right through lunch and right before dinner, or even into dinner, that you finish that container of vegetables. Now, if you could do that on a daily basis, you'll be able to hit your goals faster and faster just by getting that consumption of vegetables in that place of having instead the carbohydrates or the other fats or proteins that would be having small volumes, high calories. Okay. Now, the next section, and this section is also one of the more challenging sections as far as the foods we consume, and that's our protein section. Now, the protein section is broken up into sort of several categories. We have the meat category, which would be the livestock, which is mainly the cattle or the beef family or the pork family. And then we also have the fowls, which are the chickens and the turkeys. And then we have the fish. And the fish could be broken into different categories of fish, more like the white fish or the more denser meat fish like the salmon and the tuna. Okay. Then also included in the protein family are the eggs, and then we also have beans and legumes that are high. They have high quantities of protein, or for the real sake of understanding the building blocks, amino acids. Okay. So all these categories put together will make the main category of the proteins. Now, we don't separate them. I separate out the dairy, which is also a protein, into its own category, but we put all of the rest of the proteins that I just mentioned into that one category of protein. Now, again, if we use our benchmark number, if you're at 1,200 calories or 120 points, calopoints, you want to be somewhere around 30% or slightly higher, maybe to 35 or even 40%, the more exercise that you're doing, the more strenuous muscle or strength building exercises that you do, the more we can increase the amount of protein. But we'll cover that a little later on. But for now, for starting off in the beginning part of the program, what I want you to do is sort of get that number to about 30%. So if your top number is 1,200, then similar to the carbohydrates, you're at 360 calories or 36 points. Now, proteins, my friend, will add up fast. They add up almost as fast, if not faster, than the carbohydrates add up, especially when it comes to the beef category. If you have a quarter a pound or 4 ounces of a hamburger, which is a combination of both protein and a lot of fat, and just as a side note to that, the part of the meat that makes the caloric value go up is not necessarily the protein in the meat, it's the fat in the meat. But we can't necessarily discern and dissect out the fat from the protein. So we leave it in the protein family, yet we understand that the higher the calorie amount in that protein family of that meat, it's usually because of the quantity of fat that's also associated in the meat. So the best example, of course, would be bacon. you can have 4, 5, or 6 strips of bacon, which will equal to a quarter a pound of bacon, and that could be up to 500 calories. Now, most of those calories are obviously from the fat in the bacon, because I know when I look at a piece of bacon, it's half meat and half fat. Now, some people may say, well, what about the turkey bacon? Well, the turkey bacon's better, but when you look at it as far as, on the calorie count on the back, it's not that far off. It's a better choice, but believe me, it's not as far off as you would think it is, because in order to give that so-called bacon taste to the bacon, to the turkey bacon, there's fat involved with it. So it's not the same. It's a better choice, obviously, but it is still, pretty high up there when it comes to consuming calories. Now, beef, again, is the highest. Even a nice lean piece of filet mignon at 4 ounces, which is a small piece. And I know that if I'm going to go to a steakhouse and they give me a 4-ounce piece of filet mignon, I'm going to be staring at the waiter and saying, where's the rest of my steak? But a 4-ounce piece could be somewhere between 250 to 300 calories itself. So understand this about the beef family. It will add up fast, especially if your number is 36 points or 360 calories. Now, as another side note, when I set up men and women on the program, and I've been using that 1200 number, most of the time that 1200 number, or that 120 calories, will be more for our female population, okay? And the reason being, remember we were doing the numbers early, and we're going to do these numbers again in a subsequent lesson, that we want to eliminate 1,200 calories from your daily consumption of food. So if you're resting, your BMR resting rate, for example, is 2,400 calories, and we eliminate 1,200 calories from that number, you're at the 1,200 calorie benchmark number. If if your body fat percentage is over what it should be and your weight is over what it should be, but your resting or your BMR metabolic rate is say 2,000 or 1,800, when we eliminate that 1,200, you're going to be below the 1,200 benchmark. But we don't go below the 1,200 benchmark. Okay, so instead of you eliminating 1,200 calories from your daily diet, you may only be eliminating 600 or 800 of those calories. Even more importantly, or more now, it becomes a necessity to do that aerobic exercise to increase that burning of calories off to, like, burn. Say, for example, you eliminate 900 calories from your diet because you can't go under the 1,200 benchmark. Now, just to get to that 1,200 differential, where we can say 1,200 calorie differential 3 days in a row, will give us 3,600 calories, which will equivalent to the burning off of 1 pound of body fat. That person, if that be you, okay, you need to get to that at least daily aerobic exercise where you're burning 300 calories a day in exercise, okay? So just understanding when it comes to consuming the food, you don't want to be wasting the calories away with the high carbohydrate foods or the dense proteins, and that's why a lot of people, when they're looking to lose weight and body fat, it's not found in the beef or the pork. It's found more in the poultry, in the chicken and the turkey. Now, grilled chicken, okay, not fried chicken, because it's a different animal once it's fried, because you have the oil and the breadcrumbs that go along with it. But a 4-ounce piece of grilled chicken is about maybe 14 or 15 ports, or 140 to 150 calories. Turkey, slightly higher, okay, maybe 16 or 17 points, 160, 170 calories per quarter pound. Now, one of the questions, and I might have said this earlier, is how do we figure out how much this chicken, do we have to pull out a scale every time we weigh this? No, what you want to do is you're going to go to the store and you're going to buy yourself a package of chicken, and you're going to read the label, and it's going to say it's 1 pound. Hypothetically, there's 4 pieces of chicken in that, 4 pieces of cutlet or 4 pieces of chicken breast in that package, and they're all approximately the same size. So we want to assume that each one of those pieces is about 4 ounces. So 4 ounces times 4 is 16 ounces. There is your pound. take a mental picture of that piece of chicken before you cook it. So then forever on from that point, you'll be able to say, okay, this is 4 ounces of chicken, or it's a little larger. Maybe it's 6 ounces of chicken, or if it's twice as big, it's 8 ounces of chicken. And understand this, we're just talking about the chicken. We're not talking about the chicken franchise that goes with the lemon and the butter. The lemon has no problem, but the butter becomes problematic, and the white wine that goes along with it becomes problematic. And the chicken parmesan, which not so much of the red sauce or the gravy that goes on it, but it's the cheese that could be more than the chicken itself. So we're just talking about the chicken itself, the grilled chicken. And what I'm sharing with you is selecting our food choices correctly. Especially, listen, if your goal is to get into great shape, then you're going to have to get past or surpass that burning desire to have that overwhelming taste. It's like, yeah, grilled chicken, a little salt, pepper, some lemon on it, maybe some rosemary, maybe some other herbs on it. You'll have some good flavor, but it's not going to be basted and swimming in a buttery sauce. It's the sacrifice you have to make. It's one of those principles that we need to be willing to make those sacrifices, because you don't want to ruin a nutritious, lower calorie, lower fat protein by killing it with cheese and oils and butter. Okay, so that's basically in that meat family. We want to tend to lean towards the grilling or the roasting of the poultry. Okay, now on the other half of the eat sheet, you'll see I have the fishes. Now the white fish, okay, like the flounder fish or the codfish, they're going to be kind of low in their caloric value. 4 ounces of a white flaky fish may only be 60 or 80 or 90 calories, like a tilapia, which is very good broiled with a little bit of lemon, is only 60 to 90 calories per 4 ounces. Yet, on the other hand, we have salmon and tuna, which could be up to 2 or 3 times that amount, which may be 18 or 20 calories per 4 ounce piece of tuna or salmon. Now, it doesn't mean that you stay away from it, because you've heard all the praise reports of how healthy salmon is for you. And it's very healthy. As a matter of fact, it's significantly healthy compared to other fishes because of not only the type of protein that's in it, but the high quantity of the omega-3, omega-6, and omega-9 fatty acids that are in this type of fish, and primarily these cold water fish. And the benefit is tremendous for your cardiovascular system. It's tremendous for your immune system. It's great for your hair, skin, and nails. There's so much benefit to having that fish oil. Now, yes, you can take it in a supplement, but nothing's more assimilated into the body or into your system than the food itself that has it. Now, the controversy that goes along with it, of course, there's a controversy with everything about the salmon. And if somebody's going to say, well, I heard that if you have too much salmon, you're going to get mercury poisoning. And the truth is that if you're having wild-caught, salmon for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you will definitely increase your chances of raising the mercury levels in your bloodstream. Now, the problem with mercury is that it's considered what they call a heavy metal, and it binds to certain receptors in the brain that can interfere with neurological signals that go on in the brain, and that could cause severe and permanent neurological damage. But if you're having salmon once or twice or 3 times a week, and you're mixing it with wild-caught salmon and then farm-raised salmon, then I wouldn't worry about that much. I mean, if you're going to be worried about a lot, stay away from it. But I wouldn't worry about it a lot that much if you're doing a moderation or mixing the types of salmon. Now, the farm-raised salmon, well, it's a different animal there. It does not have the same essential fatty acid content as the wild salmon, but nonetheless, it's healthy and it's good for you, and you don't have to worry about the mercury poisoning from that salmon. But nonetheless, when we add our proteins together, we want to stay within that 30 to 35% range. Of course, we go higher when we reach the point when we're doing our Gen Intensity Wellness program, exercise modules, or we're doing any type of increased strength training exercises where we're breaking down a lot of muscle tissue. And therefore, we need to increase the amount of protein, or in the molecular level, to increase the amount of amino acids into the system.